Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mainstream Indie Music channel. Not only that, welcome to a segment on this channel that we do every once in a while. Not too frequently, but we kind of wait for some news to pile up. This is indie news, so we're going to take a look at three different things that's kind of happening in the world of indie music right now. Three returns to form. One of them is Radiohead, which is the newest bit of information, actually. The other two segments have happened for quite some time now, so we're kind of revisiting it. But the return of three bands. Radiohead is the first one. The second one is Alabama Shakes. And the third one is the Temper Trap. Now, Radiohead's one is kind of interesting because it kind of splits into two different pieces of information. The very first one is they have announced a tour. They have not toured for about 7 years. I believe it was 2017 or 2018 was the very last time that Radiohead went on tour. If anything, it was kind of the last time that they did anything kind of new. Even though they have released some like projects on the side and so on and so forth. But this is kind of the biggest piece of information about them as a band for quite some time. Now, sorry to us here in America, but this tour right now is mostly centered in Europe. I believe there's some stops in England, Germany, and I think Italy was another one. So sad to say, all of you American fans out here, that we're all over here, they're not really coming this direction. They're staying in Europe right now. However, some other people noticed something interesting about Radiohead's upcoming music events. Fans of Coachella had seen the poster for next year's upcoming musical acts, and they were a little confused. They looked at the very bottom of the list of musical acts and noticed that Radiohead was there. And so they asked themselves, why is that? They're a pretty big band. Well, it turns out that while it is Radiohead's music, it is an art kind of exhibit that they have been showing off and on for the last couple of years. The band is not going to be playing live. So a few disappointments amongst the fans. It seems like it was a little bit confusing. But I also see why Radiohead did it, because if they didn't do that, I think a lot of people would just not know that it was a Radiohead art exhibit. They would just assume it was just another musical band that was performing. So a little confusion, but that is the newest news about Radiohead. Now, the next piece of information here is about the Temper Trap. Now, I know what you may be thinking about this piece of information, because if you've noticed or if you are fans of the Temper Trap, they haven't been silent as a band. They've been touring off and on over the years, in fact. They haven't really stopped being a band, but it has been about 9 years since they released any new music. Now, the Temper Trap, why they've kind of taken it a little slow is because their biggest hit, Sweet Disposition, definitely gets radio play. People remember it. They kind of just live off of that song alone. No diss to them in any respect. I love the Temper Trap, but also what happened is a lot of, Sweet Disposition also is one of the biggest indie songs to be covered. A lot of samples to it too in other songs. And even in like dubstep, I've heard, it goes all the way into that genre of music as well. So that remix and covering of that song alone kind of keeps them in the mix. They get maybe some royalties, hopefully, from that. But if anything, it kind of just keeps them alive and well in the indie game. But about a month ago now, they released a new song. The song was and is called Lucky Dimes, and it's very good. It's very, very good. A lot of old callbacks to the Temper Trap as well. And what's interesting is a couple of the bandmates have, of course, posted comments about the direction the band is going. They kind of call this song, and I'm sure to be the new upcoming record as well, a mix of two things, a kind of a callback to the past and what they've used to do, and then also looking forward into the future. So it looks like them as a band is not going anywhere. They want to kind of keep active and keep going as a group. So good luck to them, and let's see what happens. Now, the last new bit of information is about the band Alabama Shakes, another huge indie band that came out in the 2010s. And Brittany Howard was the face of them. You know, she just led them, being their lead singer, and they made great albums. However, their last album, again, was about, I think, 9 years ago. It might have even been longer than that, maybe even about 10 years ago. Shape and Color was the name of their last album that they did. And as for Britney, well, she kept going. You know, she definitely kept busy in the music scene. She released a lot of solo music, a lot of even solo albums as well, and would tour with other musicians. So she herself kept very busy, but Alabama Shakes always kind of hinted off and on about what their future was going to be. Although I will say a lot of times there was never any bad blood between anybody. Their new single is called Another Life. Now, of course, it could be done in a romantic aspect, a relationship aspect, or some people even kind of ponder if this is a nod to them as a band. You know, they kind of just left things and moved on to other projects, and now all of a sudden, well, they're back. So time is going to have to tell on that one. And if they are indeed, which it really seems like they are, heavily leaning on making an entire new album together as well. So that would be very exciting. The song, kind of breaking down the song Another Life, since Britney has been gone and has been doing her own solo work, her voice has evolved so much for the better. She really had a powerful voice always. You know, don't get me wrong. I think her voice was very strong in the past. However, I think much alike Alex Turner with the Arctic Monkeys during their early days, she kind of just kept in one style of singing. You know, now that she's matured as a musician, I think she's really opened up her range and even added a lot of effects on top of her voice as well to really test her limits, not only with her vocals, but even as an artist. And it's hinted at a little bit here. There's definitely a callback to Alabama Shake's old sound, but I think they might be kind of the biggest surprise out of this lot in this episode. It's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do as a band. And so there you guys have it. For this week, we got 3 big returns: Alabama Shakes, The Temper Trap, and Radiohead, with a lot more music to come, even in the next upcoming months as well. A lot of pop-punk music we're going to keep our eyes out on going forward into the future. What do y'all think about the music scene in indie? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week.